Now, yo, what up, though? Time is running out. It's for real, though. Let's connect politics, ditto. We could trade places, get lifted in the staircases. Peace, incarcerated scar faces. Yes. Incarcerated scar faces. Raekwon. Sometime in the 90s. And today's episode is about the fact that white people don't got it. They don't got it. I think black people need to notice that and be aware of that and include that in our understanding so that we can approach things differently and better. What's actually inspired this video was the discussion. I talked about it briefly in the last video. This beef between India Ari and what was Young Miami, but now it's extended with Trick Daddy. Like I said, Trick Daddy came and put what I found to be just a detestable, aggressive, violent video, just going off on India Ari for saying something basic and something from a place of love. And there's a lot of chatter about this now. A lot of the social media people are chatting, and the blogs and the black news and black entertainment and black podcasts are talking about this issue in the black community. It's back on the front burner again. The question of black music and black culture. And is it destructive or is it not? And does India Ari have a point? And things like this. And one of the things that it struck me is that, like, there's this, when we, like, some of the black news stuff, you know, like Roland Martin and stuff like this, BET, oftentimes there's a sense that, like, black news, there's this thing called black news. There's a black thing over here and there's a white thing over there. And we focus on sort of highlighting our black celebrities, and we get into the spats and the gossip on the black stuff here. We get into a certain kind of black politics. We talk about things that are affecting only black people. We think we can parse that out. And then that the white people have this thing over here. And we've talked about in this episode a million times that it's all one thing. That it's all one thing. We talked about what that means in detail on lots of levels. But I really don't think it works that way. I don't think it's possible. There is no white politics over here. There is no black politics over here. There is the concept that there's something going on that's not our problem. For instance, the MAGA rift that's happening right now. The idea that it's not our problem as black people is wrongheaded. It's ahistorical. It's not connected to reality. Right? The challenge is going on in these definitions, how white people define themselves, and the body politic and the politics that they take up and the language they use to describe reality affects black people. It affects Americans. It's all one thing. There also like this concept, the way we do black politics as a separate thing. It's that's us doing that. We see so often, like, these guys getting into black politics all the time. There's always a conversation about supposed black on black crime or black crime, like black culture, black music. Ben Shapiro doesn't hesitate to call Ta-Nehisi Coates one of, like, the most preeminent black journalists of this time, to call him a terrorist and to criticize him. You know, Nick Fuentes and Charlie Kirk and these guys, same kind of this energy where it's all connected. And one of the things we got to realize is, like, this other thing, part of it, when we do this separation, there's an assumption that they kind of got it. Like, these things are out, like, we come up with a notion of, like, white politics, and we consider it outside of our control. And we also assume that it's being handled in a way. Like, there's, you know, again, whenever they want to talk about bad politics or they want to talk about bad culture, they shine a big magnifying glass and a light onto black culture and want to point out flaws and to demonstrate as a contrast, right? It's contrast against the white culture. The white dominant culture is the mythology is that it's focused on academic rigor and it's focused on um, merit and capitalism as an expression of merit, right? Um, there's the West versus the East, and all of these, these mythologies, these stories that they come up with, and it's really wild. And I think it's important to be clear that the white people don't got it. They don't got it. Here are a few examples. There's a short list of the things that the white people don't got, and it's very important that black people acknowledge and join in the conversation confidently, knowing that their voice matters and that they're part of these conversations. They're not separate from them, as these conversations and these challenges affect us. There is a rampaging country, nation state called Israel that is bombing on multiple fronts, is now several years into a genocide in Gaza, and has expanded that into the West Bank, um, and currently engaged in bombing campaigns in Lebanon as well. Civilian populations in all of these areas. And that's just true. And I grew up, I went to grad school for international relations and ethics at American University. I have a graduate degree in these kinds of studies. And I recognized the genocide very early on. And I've sat and watched the same people who were afraid or challenged me on that wording and wanted to avoid calling it a genocide 4 years ago, 3 years ago. These same people are still avoiding the word now as the bombings continue, as the aggression continues, as it's been now well documented and proven that so many of the ceasefire efforts have been undermined by Israel, that so many of the negotiations, people have been killed, negotiators have been killed mid-negotiations, ceasefire is broken. Matthew Miller of the State Department, when he was at the State Department, he used to come to the podium and talk about how difficult it was because Hamas was breaking this and Hamas was lying and so violent. And he said, since he's left, since he's no longer a member of the State Department and the Biden administration, he's made it clear that it was Netanyahu that broke pretty much every ceasefire. That's happening. I was raised, or I went to school, and I was taught that we have an international system that, although it's toothless, there was some knowledge that it was a toothless system. We have an international system from the UN to the International Criminal Courts, and lots of nonprofit bodies. We have statutes and rules. We have international law. We have a media that is independent, and that we learned a ton of lessons after World War II, after the European genocide and Holocaust, and we said that it would never happen again. I was taught that certain things would be triggered when we recognize a genocide, when we recognize the process of violence, that triggers a bunch of action on the global stage. It triggers people isolating the country. It triggers the knowledge that you can't be engaging in a series of violent crimes and international law breaking, and also position yourself as victim. That's not true. That's not how it works. That's just not how it is. That's not what it is right now. We live in a condition where this thing rolls on, and our media doesn't have the stomach to call things as they are. And our media is actually that goes to the next thing, our news media orgs. We don't understand journalism at all. I've written about what journalism is. Journalism is an effort to give language and articulate reality. And it's a very important role in a healthy society. We live in a condition where the news media orgs are all separate private entities, and they're all lying to their separate, unique audiences. That's what we have. When you look at Fox News and you look at News Nation and you look at all these, look at, it's reduced down to the level of raw, blatant propaganda. All of the journalistic statutes and assumptions, standards have been whittled down to nothing. And the dominant culture believes in the power of these private institutions. They believe very much that the corporation is one of the focal points in American culture. And then you couple that with free speech, which is a powerful thing, valuable thing. And there's no solutions on this. There's no solutions on how to pull people back and to prioritize truth. There's only confusion. There's only chaos. There's only different news organizations having partnerships with other companies and prioritizing their advertising dollars and their connections and telling entirely different stories to their audiences. And if there isn't a big thing going on, if there isn't a big, violent genocide or something to report, they'll invent other stuff. They'll look out there and, there's some men wearing female clothing. Or men wearing women's clothing. Let's get pissed at that. Let's make reams of content about that. Oh, here's black people trying to organize themselves politically. Let's get into that. We have a grifting president. Donald Trump. Hold on, let me let this pass. Oh shit, it's like three trucks. Hold on. We have a grifting president. The president has made Donald Trump upwards of $4 billion in the last year. The whole effort to create a system that limits the power of the president. Yeah, the liberal democratic system we have, the thing with the Congress and the judiciary and the executive. It works in a context, and it hasn't it doesn't do much in this moment. A lot of these systems, we've come to realize, they rest on integrity. They actually rest on integrity. It's like, the judiciary will step in and do this, and then the president will never even done, and he'll, the president will put out his tax returns, and he will intentionally not use the station in order to self profit, and this and that's gone. That's not how it works. That's not how President Trump uses the station. Like I said, that's $4 billion just for him. That's not mentioning Donald Trump or Eric Trump, which is the goofy looking one, or Melania and the whole thing. Like there's a whole, it's actually, the grift is real. It's unprecedented. And it affects black people too. It affects everyone. Clearly it's affecting immigrants. It affects everyone. Congress is compromised. Congress is deeply compromised. The money system, everybody keeps talking about it, but it's real, yo. It's affecting the politicians. The politicians are not able to govern properly. They're not able to govern from that basic understanding. With a member of the House has a district, and it's sort of that old kind of belief that the system was created under the assumption that all of that the politicians could be wrangled and controlled by their constituencies. But that's been undermined by years of dark money and defining speech in certain ways, all these attacks, all these legal efforts to undermine people's power. and they don't got it. They don't know what to do, right? It's an ongoing battle. You know, there are people who talk about this a lot, um, but the battle continues. Just now, with the victories of the DSA, with the victories, what is it, but Mamdani and a couple other people, the Democrat Party is cool with having John Fetterman in there. They're always looking for, Liz Cheney and all these other right wing figures, but they're cool with that. But all of a sudden, the Democrat Party, people are talking about a legitimate split, the leadership, Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer and these guys. They're interested in splitting the Democrat Party now. After years of like vote blue, no matter who, people want to split it because the values that they have, the values that the voters are expressing currently run afoul of the entire system, which is the system is corrupted. The people are tired of a whole bunch of things. They're tired of war. They're tired of abuse. And the Democrat leadership is tied up in their system, their consultants, their commitments to like fundraising, their systems of fundraising, their belief that, every cycle they have to meet these things, and they have a whole system that's already built up with the funders. And and we're watching this like history unfold as these political fractures happen. And you can't believe that you're not a part of that. You can't create a false separation if you're a Black person, if you're anybody, to believe that there's some other thing happening over there that it doesn't affect you. That's counterproductive, and it's not true. There are people that like Jake Lang. Is that his name? Jake Lang runs around creating discord, Islamophobia, screaming racist obscenities, showing up at the BET Awards, talking about how Black parents are failures. They don't have any recourse for that. No one even speaks up to discuss that. So again, like, I look at Trick Daddy and the way he talked to India.Arie, and I think, man, that's so dysfunctional and fucked up. And sometimes we talk about it, we say, oh, the Black community has to do better. And that's a great conversation we can have. We can have that. But it's important to know that, like, the white community is wild. Not only are there these grifters and muck rakers like Jake Lang, like Ben Shapiro, boosted, given way too much credibility by like institutions like CNN, who his whole purpose is to confuse the conversations, telling people from New York that they shouldn't be interested in affordability, that they should leave. Meanwhile, he insists that it's okay to kill children in Gaza, and that people from all over the world can go over there. That there's some special citizen privilege for Jews in Gaza. That's what Ben Shapiro does. Sam Harris is a philosopher, supposedly, and a journalist, supposedly. And, he talks about moral philosophy. He's written books on this. He has an app about meditation and calm and peace. Sam Harris continues to be respected. His podcast, people will go on, and he has this calm demeanor that belies a real idiocy, if you ask me, right? On this question, like, today we're looking at the biggest moral failing of our time, of our generation, and he has nothing to say. In fact, he's retracted himself from the public discourse. He says he won't debate the question on Israel because all that stuff he wrote about, all this time he spent thinking about moral philosophy, when the moment needs it, when it's real, when it's now, he retracts back into identity and his own privileges. And we don't have, in the dominant culture, the white culture doesn't have the discernment to understand how bad it is that Sam Harris exists as he does. And Jordan Peterson and Sean Hannity, bloated. I've seen him recently, big bloated face. Years of just being a fake, dangerous journalist. Of course, but they move and control and engage with millions of minds and paint a picture of the world. And there's no, like I said, the prevalence of the corporation are no, like there's no real effort to even curtail this or work with this or help deal with this. It's just what it is. Jake Tapper, Sean Hannity's at Fox, Jake Tapper's at CNN. I've worked with Jake Tapper. The fact that he's still at CNN at this point, after all of these mergers and the things they're doing with Barry Weiss and all that stuff, to still be there. And the cover for the crimes of Israel are so obvious. The platforming of Jonah Platt, this guy who attacks Miss Rachel and attacks Hassan Piker. Jake sees the amount of abuse that's going on, the warping of narratives and the discourse. He's fully aware. Of the words he's not allowed to say. They don't have anything about this. They don't know what to do with it. They don't have any, you think there's some sort of, there's some effort, there's some force that's going to pull people towards truth, but they don't have it. Everything is corporate and profit driven and media driven. Those are the drivers. Brian Johnson, this is the guy who he has that shirt, Don't Die. He was selling a bunch of supplements. His whole brand is I think he's in his 40s or 50s, but he's just, I don't know, he's infused himself with so many supplements. He has a crazy regimen. And his whole premise was that he wanted to not die. His whole brand, and he made quite a bit of money, I'm sure, from this kind of marketing approach. And he was just recently diagnosed with some sort of terminal disease. Right? It's just this like twisted fate, which is just a reminder that he doesn't have it. He doesn't have control over these things. We want to have control over stuff, and we want to profit from just about anything in this country in particular. We don't have the guardrails of integrity and the common humanity. Every possible difference between us can be capitalized on and used to separate us. And one of the worst things we could do is to assume as Black people that we have something that is particular to us, that is Black. And we have to, that there's this other thing over there that we can rest, that is theirs, and that white people will handle it or something, and that we have to handle ours. That's not what is. That's not how it works. That thinking actually keeps us out of our power. It keeps us out of engaging with all of their crazy, violent, backwards, inhumane, goofy, all of the absurdities that come from their wrong-headed philosophies. They affect Black people. All the people that give themselves awards and they're high-minded, again, Sam Harris, this high-minded academic, can't grapple with his own frailty, with his own identity. He has to contradict himself so deeply and so absurdly. And I don't know if he's received the proper reputational hit that he deserves for being so different from everything that he's written down, all of his uh, theories and things he's written down in the moment. When the moment counts, when the moral philosophy meets the moment, he fails. When fascism is rising, the president signs on. President grifts. Congress folds. So when black people recognize, first off, as I said, it's all one thing. You are citizens of this country. You are powerful. You actually have perspective. It's been well known and well stated and made clear that black people have always been the sort of the moral compass, because just merely because the dominant culture, through its definition, through its self-definition and its separation of black people, as trying to create black people as an underclass, we become the mirror. We become the voice and the mirror that shows the limitations, that shows where there's still growth to be had. And we have to continue that tradition and claim it. And you do that, you do that every moment because you're powerful. And so I'm so grateful for India Ari. I'm grateful for Mark Lamont Hill. I'm grateful for the people who take up that space and do so unapologetically, do so from love. Because again, that's what's missing from these people that I mentioned. They're completely detached. They're detached from reality. They're detached from God. They're detached from now. They're detached from love. They are in an ego and they're playing a game and they're trying to navigate for personal benefit. And they don't got it. They don't got it. The body politic needs, the public, the collective needs, America needs clear voices. It needs honesty. And that comes from us. So, um, yeah, that's the message, yo. Check out the YouTube and subscribe. And we'll talk more about this later. Peace.